Weight loss is extremely hard to maintain. I've lost significant amounts of weight, as much as 49 pounds on 6 different occasions. And then I put it back on every time. Now, as you can see, I'll back up. I'm at goal weight today. I want to talk to you about how I manage that, because there's something that you don't know. I know you didn't know it because I didn't know it. And most people are going to get this wrong, and this thing will cause you to fail at your diet. I was obese, Wellness Warrior. 7 years ago, my BMI was 34.5. That's 80 pounds overweight. I wasn't able to solve this huge problem in my life, despite the fact that for a living, I help people with anxiety, depression, relationship issues, work issues, name the issues. And for more than a decade, I fought with my weight. And the reason that was happening to me is because you cannot solve the problem if you don't know what question you're actually trying to solve. Today, I'm going to share with you the one thing that you need to actually fix if you want to succeed at weight loss and keep the weight off. So in order for this to make any kind of sense to you, I'm going to discuss 2 important things that we're told that control our weight, that they're contributing factors, but they're not the thing that's actually causing us to fail at our diet. The first thing is whether or not our family has a weight problem. This is especially looking at our parents. The logic is our genetics is causing us to be overweight. Wellness Warrior, I come from a family that does have some obese people. However, my mom was never obese, and my dad was never obese. I did have some aunts, uncles, and my grandmother who were all obese, but not my parents. Still within this theory, my obesity could be explained by genetics. Things skip generations and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to give you a Cliff Notes version of my history. Do they still make Cliff Notes today? Do you even know what Cliff Notes? Cliff Notes are like when you read a book, they kind of give you a cheat sheet for what the book was about. So anyways, 8.5 to 9 years ago, I woke up in pain. I had an excruciating problem with my hip. I couldn't even walk. And doctor's visits, all kinds of things. But the thought that was prevailing was, well, I'm just so heavy that my hip now is hurting me. Because remember, I was obese at the time. My BMI was 35.4. Now, even though I wasn't classifying myself as obese in my own brain, like those numbers speak for themselves. I knew that maybe the weight was causing my problem. So I worked for the next 8 months really hard trying to lose weight. I ate low fat. I ate portion controlled. I did as much walking as I could possibly manage because that was the only exercise I could do without crying. And I lost a grand total of 0 pounds in 8 months. Not a pound. So the only thing I figured out in all that walking was that when I walked for about an hour and a half afterwards, my hip felt a little better and I could actually sit. So for clarity, what was happening was I couldn't sit, I couldn't stand, I couldn't lay down. Every position that I was in, my hip was hurting. I sit for a living, by the way, in those meetings that I do with clients. And so therefore I needed to be able to sit for more than, 2 hours in a row. So I started looking online, what could be wrong with my hip that when I go for walks, it feels better. And the prevailing idea was that I had an inflammation issue in my hip. And the online community was saying that I needed to take sugar out of my diet because that causes inflammation. My doctors never told me that. And they had their basic idea was you have a failing hip and you'll need a hip replacement. That was the story that I was working with from my doctors. Taking sugar out of my diet sounded much less painful than getting a hip replacement surgery. So on April 8th April 20th, 2018, I started a keto diet. 3 months after starting my keto diet, my hip pain was gone, and all of my body pain. I had pain in most of my joints. Was pretty sure I was on the way to arthritis. All of my joint pain was gone 3 months after starting keto. And by the way, I had lost 42 pounds, July 18th. 5 months after starting keto, I was at goal weight, which meant that I had lost 70 pounds-ish. And then, October 2018, I was actually 80 pounds down. So I'm currently living 80 pounds lighter than I started in 2018. And that's over 7 years of maintenance wellness warrior. Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because if my weight was being controlled by my genetics, I'd still be overweight. My weight was being controlled by the excessive amounts of sugar that I was eating.
Ketosis is hardwired into our genetics. Ketones, which is the byproduct of fat burning, is not an alternative fuel source. It's a primary fuel source. Mother Nature never designed the body to primarily run on glucose.
You can take a newborn baby and the baby can breastfeed or bottle feed. And then within an hour, the baby is in a deeper state of ketosis than an adult would be after fasting for a full day. If there's any natural state, kind of back to our conversation a moment ago, it is clearly that a natural state is a state of ketosis.
Apparently, my body didn't want all that sugar. So keto solved that and allowed my body to start using ketones again and regulate my weight back to a healthy place. Now, you can learn more about how to do keto in the playlist that I'm going to link below, but I need you to understand that food is not the complete story. There are so many people who do keto and carnivore and then regain the weight they lost. Plus, because when we lose weight and put weight back on, we tend to gain more than we lost. Which brings me to the second huge obstacle that you're going to face that's going to keep you overweight and suffering. Junk food is everywhere. Temptation is all around us. We are constantly told that it's not possible to eat healthy all the time, first of all. But second of all, we're told that you need fruits and vegetables in order to be healthy, that keto and carnivore could not possibly be healthy to do long term. That basically you're harming yourself by eating keto and carnivore. Over the past 7 years, I've managed to eat healthy most of the time. And I had a few slips that I'm going to talk about in a minute. But most of the time, in the last 3 years, I've eaten healthy every single day. No more slips. So is it true that we can't eat healthy every day? Is that actually a thing? In order for us to even investigate this, we need to look at two real problems that exist in our life to eating healthy every day. The first one became apparent to me when I was doing keto. So when I started, because on day 4 and 5 of doing a healthy keto lifestyle, I lived withdrawal. Yeah. Now I know what withdrawal is and was able to identify it quickly because of the work that I do. Can I say that I was shocked, but then pissed? Because, Wellness Warrior, I purposefully avoided alcohol, cigarettes, and all other substances because I was fully aware that they could ruin my life, right? And here I was learning that the obesity that I struggled with for more than a decade was caused by sugar messing with my brain, stimulating in my brain, making me chase foods that I knew I shouldn't be eating and felt out of control because I wasn't in control. Obviously, I committed to keto because by committing to keto, I kept my sugar intake low enough to ensure that I did not re-engage those cravings and become out of control with food. And this is where the second roadblock shows itself, right? Because now the question is, How would we celebrate birthdays and holidays, right? What was I going to do when everybody else is having cake and ice cream and, like all the holiday foods? And what about dessert? Am I never having dessert again? Because remember, what we're told all the time, it's not possible to avoid garbage. It's all around us, it's everywhere, it's in our face. And it's true. We cannot avoid garbage. Like, that is the world we live in. And as far as the authorities who help us with weight loss are concerned, if it's in front of you, you're going to eat it. And I knew that if I gave in and ate garbage on a holiday or had dessert once in a blue moon, that I would be pulled back into my cravings. And what happens to people that get pulled back into their cravings? They're out of control again. And what happens to people who are out of control again? Getting back out is 17 times as hard as it was the first time. And if you manage to get out a second time and then slip and get back in, it's 17 times as hard to get out as the last time, and that just keeps multiplying and multiplying, and it gets harder and harder until some people just can't do it and they never get back in. So I knew this. I'd help lots of people who tried to get off of other things and struggled. This is exactly why I had cravings in the first 4 years Wellness Warrior, because I had some slips. But here's the problem. How did I have slips when I knew not to eat garbage? In my attempt not to eat real garbage, I allowed myself to eat keto replacement snacks. I allowed myself to have nuts and seeds because nuts and seeds are healthy, right? That's what all the keto people tell us.
It doesn't make any biological sense to base our diet on grains and legumes. They are, if you're looking at the whole foods, if you're going to consider grains and beans foods, they're really not they're not fit for human consumption. We have to do all kinds of things to them to make them less dangerous and more digestible and more nutritious to us. We have to soak them and ferment them and sprout them and boil them and do all kinds of things to them, because otherwise they are toxic, full stop. Grains are so low in nutrients that all of the products that we buy in the store that are made from grains are fortified with nutrients, because if you don't fortify them, there's almost nothing in them that's going to help you. And even worse, the nutrients that grains and legumes appear to contain, and this is one of those things a lot of people don't know, but I'm sure a lot of your viewers know, just because a plant food contains a nutrient does not necessarily mean you can access it. Because plants have very cleverly evolved these really fascinating molecules to guard their nutrients for their own selfish purposes. We all have to protect ourselves in the world, and plants are no exception. And the grains and legumes, as well as the nuts and the seeds, the grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds, they're all essentially seeds. If you cut them open, you will see a little plant embryo inside, and that embryo needs to be defended. And sometimes for many years, it needs to sit on its own in the middle of a field somewhere, or under a tree, or wherever it's going to sit, and wait and wait and wait and wait for conditions to be right to sprout. And during all that time, it's got to hold on to all the nutrients that it's going to need to grow. So the grains, beans, nuts, and seeds are the most heavily defended, not just from a nutrient standpoint, but they're also defended with toxins to ward off predators, like little creatures that will come along and try to eat them. So these are the highest risk, least nutritious whole foods, in my opinion, looking at the biology of it, that we could. Why would you want to base a diet on the least nutritious, riskiest food on the planet?
Keto replacement snacks, nuts and seeds became my fun foods. And there we go, there's the problem. I am eating for fun again. And guess what they did? Those fun, safe foods engaged my cravings. Yep, I was able to eat enough nuts or enough keto snacks to put my brain back on craving, and I'm chasing again, and I was out of control. And there was another problem with those keto snacks, by the way. Some of them didn't taste right. Like, I remembered what chocolate bars tasted like. I remember what granola bars tasted like. I remember what cookies tasted like. I remember what cake tastes like. So when I'm eating these keto replacements and they don't taste right, what did it make me want? It made me want the real thing. No matter how we look at this, these replacement foods and safe snacks, a lot of people do the same mistake with berries because berries are a safer fruit than all the. No, it's not. Anything that tastes sweet is going to cause you to chase. Today, I know that eating for fun is not an option, but this is the biggest problem that I see not only in my comments, but in most comments. When you go in the comment section of any health video that's about keto and carnivore, the number one problem that people are trying to solve is how do they stop chasing garbage. And the reason you're chasing it, Wellness Warrior, that I'm trying to help you to see right now is because any sweet flavor is going to cause you to chase. And you can put yourself over even with healthy keto foods. Which brings me now to the real reason that we need to address that causes us to not be able to manage ourselves, to not be able to lose weight and keep it off. The true reason is this. Every day that we're trying to live healthy, keto and carnivore lifestyles, the people around us are offering us junk food. Everywhere we go, there's a fast food restaurant or a garbage vending machine putting nonsense in our faces. We live in a community that does not support our healthy habits, and that is the true problem. I want you to think about it like this. If I were to snap my fingers and transport you to Germany tomorrow morning, not knowing how to speak German or not understanding German customs and etiquette and way of life, you would feel trapped, alone, and like your efforts to be happy are doomed to fail. And that's exactly how we feel when we are trying to live healthy keto or carnivore lifestyles in a world that eats garbage on repeat, that doesn't seem to understand that sugar is the problem. We feel trapped, alone, and like our efforts are doomed to fail. And then we act on those feelings and we do fail. And that is going to keep happening to you unless, Wellness Warrior, unless you find a community of people doing what you are doing. This is not about trying to convince the people around you to be keto or carnivore, to force them. If they're not ready yet, there's nothing you're going to say that's going to make them ready. And think about it. You didn't start keto or carnivore until you were ready. This is about finding the people who figured it out and supporting one another, supporting each other. Wellness Warrior, I created the Wellness Squad for exactly this purpose. It's not a fan club. It isn't about me. The squad is a place for you to talk to each other. Because talking to you is what helped me, right? By making these videos, my brain stays focused on what's important. Eating for fun is not what's important. And by answering your questions, it helps me to stay on track. You can have the same experience in the Wellness Squad. You can ask your questions and other people are going to answer you, the people who are a little bit ahead of you. And then you can share your experiences with the people who are new. Why? Because talking to each other actually helps. It works. I want you to scan this QR code or click the link in the description to join the squad. Because why? Because this is your opportunity to surround yourself with like-minded people who want to eat healthy every day. That is what is going to help you to stay on track. That's the true unlock, Wellness Warrior. If you pay attention to the people who are successful, they're interacting with other people who get it. So if you're not keto or carnivore yet, click here to learn how to do keto and carnivore. And if you're already there, click this video. That's the one for you.